What is going on, guys? Welcome to another video of mine on YouTube. Um, in this video, I'm going to talk about how to deal with a manipulator, right? Now, I hope, first of all, that you don't have somebody who is manipulative in your life, right? And what I'm not saying is, you need to be around perfect people who don't cause any issues at all. Issues inevitably arise because we are sinful, and a lot of times, I guess I'm not a believer in sinful nature, first of all, but I do think that there are certain tendencies that can perhaps lead us towards sin. Sin is ultimately a choice that you commit. It is not something that is inherent to you. It is something that you choose to partake in. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'll talk about that in a different video. Um, and I already did a video about that on Instagram. But anyways, um, the best thing you can do is just, first of all, not have any compulsive manipulators in your life, right? And how do you know somebody is a manipulator? Well, one telltale sign is they always play the victim, right? No matter how many wrongs they commit, no matter how many people tell them of the mistake that they are making and that they need to fix, they always find a way around it, right? And they always make an excuse as to why they are not measuring up. They will always try to find a way to gaslight you. So for those of you who are not familiar with the term gaslight, gaslight is not the gas that you use in your furnace. It is a psychological term that means a person uses subconscious techniques to make you question your own sanity. They say things that make you doubt your own intelligence. Uh, they say phrases that make you question just fundamental aspects about yourself, and in order to get a rise out of you, in order to get a reaction and to make you confused, and that is the way that they control you, right? Is by presenting a false sense of credibility on their behalf, and to demonstrate your own lack of credibility. Um, it constitutes living inside someone and assuming that you know what they think better than they know what they think. There's actually a good book that I read a while back on this subject. It's by Patricia Evans. Gosh, I can't remember what the book's name is, but anyways, um, it's a very good book. It's a really good book, and it talks about these kinds of manipulative slash toxic techniques. This book was written and published in 2002, so it was published a while ago, over 20 years ago. But it's so relevant today, right? Even though Patricia Evans is, as far as I'm concerned, she's not a psychologist. She's not an expert on mental health issues. Um, and this is evident by her very few citations in her book. But man, her book is so informative, and she is such an expert in this area that it is amazing to me to read her book, despite the fact that she doesn't cite many studies to prove her point. But it is a good book to help you know how to deal with manipulators, right? A lot of times, people, when they are dealing with manipulators, what they tend to do is engage in manipulation back. But that is the worst thing you can do, is to try to manipulate a manipulator, because chances are they're better at you. They're better than you at manipulating than you are. Um, unless you both are pathological manipulators in that sense. In that case, like, obviously have at it, but the only ones who are going to get destroyed are you guys, right? The thing about manipulators is they want affirmation as well. They want you to affirm their existence, right? So one of the best things you can do is withdraw your attention from them, but don't make it so obvious that you are doing that. In other words, don't give away your cards. Don't show them what you have in your hand. But also don't try to do it in a way to get a rise out of them. Just simply walk away, because a lot of times manipulators, what they do is they rely on you reacting in an exaggerated manner to them. And the point of that is to establish control over your mind and over your behavior. And I know, like, this sounds a bit dark, but there are many people who engage in things like that to different degrees, obviously. You might find that in your job, in your family, in church, even at school. But one thing is for sure is that you don't want to validate them. You want to withdraw your attention from them and not play by their rules, right? And instead, what you want to do is behave ethically and morally. And that sounds weird, because a lot of people say, well, why should I do the right thing when they're not doing the right thing? Well, the purpose of the doing the right thing is to not necessarily so you can get beat up and persecuted, although obviously Jesus says that when you are righteous in his image, right, when you follow his commands, you are going to be persecuted, right? That's just a guarantee. But when you are moral and when you are ethical and you are following God's commands, it's hard to dispute that. It's hard for a person to take advantage of that, right? And even if they do take advantage of you, ultimately, it's going to cost them significant amounts of damage for doing that, because by doing such a thing, they're actually incurring wrath upon themselves, not just from like a divine perspective, like God is going to punish them, which obviously he will, but more so in terms of they are literally sowing seeds of destruction in their own lives. And the more that they continue to manipulate, the more fruitful those seeds of destruction will be, right? And so that's why I say don't worry about it. And in fact, Jesus himself says don't worry about it. It doesn't mean like let yourself be abused or let yourself be manipulated or dragged through the mud. But ultimately, the main purpose is not to defeat the other person. That's an immature response. You don't want to stoop down to their level and engage in gaslighting and manipulation. But what you want to do is acknowledge that this is who they are and instead choose to behave in a godly way. You don't owe them anything. You don't owe them understanding. You don't owe them sympathy per se. But what you do owe is you owe God obedience, right? And when you do that, it naturally takes care of itself. That person cannot do anything to you, because you darkness cannot overcome light, right? And so if you're walking in the right path, it's hard for a manipulator to win in the long run. Maybe they'll win in the short run, when a few times here and there they'll get a rise out of you, but don't let that intimidate you, okay? Just keep going, because what matters is not who won certain stages, but eventually who makes it to the finish line. I hope this was helpful to you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.